This is my 1973 Libelle 201B, and it is the best glider in the world. But in this video, we're going to make it better.
Well, in this video, we're actually going to make it significantly worse, but more on that later. First, a history lesson. On the 6th of March, 1964, the first ever all-glass fibre glider took off from a small airfield in Hanweide, the 301 Libelle, the Dragonfly. A creation of a small German company called Glasflügel, who'd become known as the pioneers of glass fibre aircraft design. You can see the design cues in modern gliders from every manufacturer to this day. And not just gliders. The wing of the 301 laid the foundation for the certification of all composite aircraft. It wasn't just the material that made the Libelle special. The 201 and 301 Libelles to this day are the easiest gliders to rig. The Libelle profile is unmistakable and breathtaking. The canopy can be opened in flight for quick ventilation. All control surface actuations are done internally, so no ugly scoops are disturbing the airflow.
However, there are a few downsides. Now, one of the things you may notice is that this is quite a loud cockpit, and this is a relatively well-sealed canopy. But where the canopy and the fuselage and the wings join, there's a nice little gap here, so Libelle pilots get a lovely bit of breeze on their, well, shoulders.
Unfortunately, these gliders also have a reputation of dropping a wing and snapping the tail.
Nothing you can do about strengthened tail. This is already the 201B with the strengthened tail, but still, this has been snapped twice. But what you can do is you can do something about the aileron authority, which is what causes the wing drop.
Which brings us nicely to the modification we're going to be doing, the fairing mod.
These modifications are going to change the way the glider flies. So let's find the stall speed. Let's bring the nose up a little bit and see where she stalls. We're on the clearing turns. And so there's 40 knots. There is 38. And we're starting to feel a bit wibbly wobbly. Still got elevator authority. And what's that? 36. I'm in a mushing stall now. So let's recover. And let's have a look at the turns. So if I go into thermal turn, as I would any other day, and then let the nose drift up a little bit. There's 40, and let's slow it down and see where she starts misbehaving. 39, starting to get wobbles on the stick. Yeah, 39, 38, it's starting to be unpleasant. So supposedly, this will be fixed with the fairing. The other issues you will see are not with the Libelle, but to do with this specific Libelle. Last year at the juniors, my radio broke, so you now see it's on my shoulder. That needs to be sorted out because that's awful to fly with. Another issue is you'll notice that my instrument panel is half dead. I've got no vario, and that's because the second I turn the vario on, I lose GPS. And right now, GPS is more important to me than the vario. However, because my flarm is powered from the vario, I also have no flarm, which is a bit of a safety issue. Not a massive one, but it definitely is a bit of a problem. Oh, and yeah, the altimeter, as you just saw, quite sticky, so that's also getting replaced. And just to make it more fun, the battery's dead as well. This is one of the wing fairings. There's 4 pieces that look exactly like this. And basically, one goes on the top of the wing, one goes on the bottom of the wing, and the other two do on the opposite side. This one goes on the bottom here. And what you can probably see is that at the leading edge of the wing, there isn't that much material, but it's quite substantial there on the trailing edge. And that's just gonna make the airflow smoother over the wing. Now, the instructions say that all you have to do is you have to remove the gel coat on the wing, the canopy, and the fuselage where the fairing sits, and then you just cut it where you want the fairing to separate, paint it, and you're done. And that sounds very simple, but Jake tells me it's not actually that simple.
Yeah, you're going to be in for a lot of late nights. So I reckon it's going to be about 50 hours work just to get the fairings bonded on, and then get them all profiled, painted, and finished. After that, you've probably got about 20 hours worth of work on the trailer to make the wings fit the trailer. And then we've got the panel and the exhaust to do after that. So probably looking about 100 hours work in total.
And it's March.
It's March, yeah. Prime time to get started and get in the workshop, eh? So step 1, we're going to position them on the glider, make sure they look nicely lined up. And then we're just going to use a Sharpie to mark the edges on the wings and the fuselage, at which point we'll then remove them. We can then de-rig the glider, and then we've got to remove quite a large section of gel coat from both the wing, the fuselage, and the canopy frame to start getting ready to bond these on.
And there's one more thing, because we looked at the instructions. Do you want to show the people the instructions that we've got in this?
Yes. As you can see, it looks like they were written and photographed quite a long time ago. So we've done our best to interpret them, but we've generated a load of questions. And we've also done a bit of market research, looking at other gliders online to try and see what we're aiming for. We've got a load of questions that we're going to ask Christian at Strifly to see whether we can get any tips, which will make our life a bit easier when we come to fit them. And in here, we've got the all-important and very expensive Form 1. And that allows us to fit them to the glider.
It's probably worth mentioning at this point that I'm not an inspector and I've never done glass fibre work before. This is my first ever project like this. You've seen all the work I've done on gliders in our previous videos where I tried to hard wax a glider and I eventually managed to mylar the wings. So this is quite a big undertaking and probably not the best first project.
With the fuselage and wings marked up, this is the next job, the trailer. The way this trailer works is you have the wings slotted first and then the fuselage comes in, and vice versa, the fuselage comes out first and the wings come out second. The gap between the fuselage and the wing is very small as it is, and now with the fairings, both the fuselage and the wings will be wider. This all has to change. Currently, the wings sit in these two little hammocks and are clamped in place with these two little clamps. What we'll have to do is in here, where the spar sits, we'll have to create some boxes for the spars to sit on. And to do that, we have to remove these boxes, which is a great shame because these boxes are perfect for putting all of your tools and grease and anything else you might need for gliding, tapes, and spreading it across the trailer when you move the trailer from one location to another. So it's not a great loss losing these, but that's the next job. So I'm going to grab some tools and remove them. Yeah, let's do that. But before I do, let me show you the clamps closer. These are the hammocks we're talking about, and these are the clamps. And the way they work is they simply close in and hold the trailing edge there, and the pin sits in, holds them in. This is not a good solution. There's already damage on the wing from these. The reason we're doing this first is once we glue on the fairings, the only way to separate the wings from the fuselage after that point will be to cut the fairings. And there won't be a way for us to measure how much space the wings occupy and how much space the fairings occupy once that is done. So this is the first job, and it starts with clearing out these boxes in my handy Navboys bucket. Thankfully, this is only held in with 2 screws. Look at that mess. But there is only 1 screw. Can I see that? I don't know if you can. There's 1 screw there, and there is 1 screw there. That's the boxes done, and now we have to have a look at the hammocks for the wing, which look like they're made of metal. I'm going to see if they come out because the boxes were glued in. They're spinning, but they ain't moving. Is there a nut underneath? Let's have a look. Yep, there's a nut underneath. Actually, 2 nuts, 1 for each side, but that means they should come out relatively easily. There isn't a predefined section where you're supposed to cut the fairing. You cut it wherever it will suit your trailer, which is what we're doing now here. We're taping on the fairing to the glider and figuring out exactly how much needs to stay on the wing and how much can stay on the fuselage. And so now comes the scary bit. We figured out where the fairing is supposed to be. We figured out where we're going to have to cut them. We figured out what's going to have to happen to the trailer. So now it's time to mark the wings and to remove the paint. This little time lapse is a good hour of sanding. The challenge here is that you want to remove all of the gel coat but none of the fiberglass, as that's part of the wing structure. The one benefit of doing this part of the job is that I can sit down. Cool. So, where's the pen? It's over there. Okay. Now, it is 8:15 right now, and I would like to leave here about past. So I think all I'm going to have time to do is tape all of this up and then maybe make a start, but I'm not going to get very far tonight, unfortunately. So I think, yeah, I'm going to tape this up, do as much as I can, and when I hear the half an hour alarm, I'm going to start packing all this mess up and heading home. You can probably tell that over the course of this video my mood is dropping and dropping and dropping. That's because we're actually several days into this project already. I've been alone for the majority of it and I'm learning as I go along, so all quite straining. The reason it's taking so long isn't just due to the amount of work required or my lack of experience, but also because I'm doing this after hours and that limits how much you can get done. We can't do this during the working day as this is my own personal glider. We have customers waiting and this modification is very labour intensive, so there's no way it can be a business expense. Now, I said I wanted to leave or start leaving at past, but it would be rude not to make a start at least, wouldn't it? So I'll leave here by 9.
So now I imagine you can't understand a word of what I'm saying, so off we go. Oh, that would be while the dust is appearing.
Alright, this falling off of this is driving me insane. I've used so much tape to hold it on, it keeps just falling off. Does my head in. Right, this is off. I'll vacuum some of this off because as you can probably tell the glider's now covered actually. You can't really. There you go. Look at that. Nice and cloudy.
And the reason this kept coming off is because I was using the wrong extractor. You live and learn.
Because it kept falling off, I've kept sending dust absolutely everywhere, so everything is now coated in dust, but it's not inside the glider, so that's good. As you can tell, that tape, I don't really know. I mean, it helps because I don't go too far over, but it gets absolutely chewed up. But it is now, what time is it? Let's go find the phone. It's now nearly enough 9:10. Yeah, nearly enough 9:10, so I think that means it's probably time to put everything away, clean this mess up, and go home because tomorrow I've got work. And it's another day. Right, today we've got to finish off the sanding. So that side of the fuselage needs to be finished off. This side needs to be started, and I've got to finish the underside of that wing over there. But instead of showing you all of this again, showing you how I'm going to mark it, showing you how I'm going to tape it, I'm going to set the camera to time-lapse, I'm going to set the other camera to time-lapse, and we're just going to bash this out. And the next time you hear me talk is when I've finished all the sanding. So let's get to it. After some encouragement from Jake and Colin confirming I was on the right track and not destroying my glider, you can see I finally fell into a groove. At last I understood how the gel coat behaved, what to feel for, and most importantly, I felt confident in what I was doing. I finished the underside of the fuselage and then absolutely blitzed the underside of the remaining wing. For those of you counting at home, yes, I did one wing off camera. You can see my movements are a lot more precise and a lot smoother. That meant I made a lot more progress in that one night than in the several nights prior. Of course, you can get everything right in one go, so I'm still using the completely wrong extractor and copious amounts of tape to hold it on, which should have been a clue that something wasn't right. I ploughed on with my makeshift tape solution, and here, as I'm sanding the final part of the fuselage, you can see how I'm removing the gel coat more evenly over a much larger area than when I first started. At this point, I'm feeling quite happy with my progress and thinking that this couldn't possibly get harder, so this must be the hardest part of the project, and I'm smashing it. Mind you, I've been working since 8 AM that day and worked several late nights previously, so that might account for some of the delirium. As I untape the glider, the tiredness is really starting to settle in, as you're about to witness. Phone doing stuff, microphone's doing stuff, so hopefully it still works. There you go, it is now 10 to 11, which means it's time to go to bed. Everything is done. All the surfaces have been, all the gel coat has been removed where it has to be removed. And if you were to do this at some point, if you're watching this in the future because you're also doing the same modification, I would say the hardest thing has been sanding this area here because I kept bumping the sander against the pins, and obviously you don't want to damage this. You definitely don't want to damage the air brake lever. So this was the hardest area to do. I didn't quite manage to finish this section because the canopy's in the way. I didn't want to unstick everything to do just this section. So we'll probably do that tomorrow when we start. Well, not tomorrow actually. Whenever the next time this video cuts to, when we start gluing this, I'll probably just finish this off, probably by hand. And most of this, judging by the smell, was shellac. So once I've finished to vacuum it all up and I've used a rag, this rag's gonna go straight in the bin to collect as much of it as I possibly could. There are a few interesting bits. So like, obviously here near the wing root, you're expecting a lot of filler because they had to shape this from the factory. But there's something funky going on here. And I know this ladle snapped. So maybe it got snapped somewhere in here, but I don't know what's going on here. So I'm gonna leave this, I'm gonna see what Jake says. Didn't wanna sand through any of the glass fiber, just wanted to remove the gel coat. So I'll leave this. And the only thing I'd say is I'm not sure the masking tape was worth it. It took a lot of time to put on. And it didn't really help with finding out exactly which section's supposed to be removed because the second you get close to it, just tear. And because it would get sanded and tear, it was absolutely impossible to get off. So I'd say probably mark it with a pen, and maybe what would have helped me actually is if instead of marking exactly the way I need to, if I moved had like 10mm spacing. So like if this area of the gel coat was marked, that would give you a shape to work to, which would be a lot easier to work to than what I did. Yeah, I think that's everything. But it's very late and I'm very tired, so there might be some voiceover now as we get to morning.
And voiceover there is, as in the morning we realised that while the instructions didn't call for it, the gel coat on the canopy was in the way and had to go. It wasn't a task I was keen on doing yet, so I was extremely happy when Jake offered to do the removal for me, while I was promoted to Chief Extractor Holder. Then all that was left to do was to remove the panel, strip the interior and wiring, and my Libelle was finally ready for the upgrades.